You picture a gifted toddler as the calm one, reading early, hitting every milestone before the chart says they should. The real signs look almost nothing like that. They look a lot more like the kid who just wore you out today. The tantrum over the wrong colored cup, the 40 questions before breakfast, the meltdown you'd swear no other 2-year-old has ever had. For about 100 years, the people who actually study intelligence have been quietly saying the same unsettling thing. A lot of what we file under difficult is the same wiring we file in a grown adult under deep. Same signal, different age, and nobody hands new parents the translation. So let's read your kid with the right chart for once. Not the milestone one, the one the researchers actually use. Start with the questions. The why, and the but why that trails you from the kitchen to the car and does not stop. You've probably wondered if it's defiance, if they're doing it to needle you. In 1960s Poland, a psychologist named Kazimierz Dabrowski was mapping intense minds, and he gave that exact trait a name: intellectual overexcitability, not a behavior problem, an appetite, a mind pulling in more than the room is offering and demanding the rest. The kid isn't testing your patience. They're running out of questions faster than the world can answer them. Same researcher, same list, next intensity. The one who never sits, climbs the thing you just lifted them off of, moves in their sleep. We call it hyperactive and reach for a label. Dabrowski called it psychomotor overexcitability, a nervous system idling higher than everyone else's. The engine is just bigger than the 2-year-old it's bolted into. Then there's the seam in the sock, the tag, the food that touched the other food, the sound you can't even hear that sends them over the edge. Every parent of one of these kids has been told they're being fussy. Here's the other reading. A sensory system turned up that high isn't faulty, it's high resolution. It's taking in detail most people filter straight out. That's overexcitability number 3, and hold on to the sensitivity part because in a minute it turns into the whole point. The imaginary friend with the full backstory, the pretend so total they forget you're in the room. Intense imaginational response, same framework, same intense mind. The inner world is simply louder than the outer one. Now stop for a second, because if you're nodding along, I want to name what's happening. Every one of these started life as a complaint. Too many questions, too much energy, too sensitive, too much imagination, too much. That phrase, too much, is the tell. You don't get too much out of a quiet mind. You get it out of one running hot. So let's stop asking what's wrong with the volume and start asking what the volume is for. Which brings us to the one that scares parents most, the meltdowns. The ones that don't match the trigger, that flatten a whole afternoon over something tiny. Bright kids are supposed to be easy, and yours is on the floor. In the 1940s, a psychologist named Lita Hollingworth studied children with the very highest measured IQs ever recorded, and she did not find easy. She found a gap. The mind races out ahead. It can picture what it wants, reason about it, expect it, while the emotional brakes and the small hands are still exactly 2 years old. They call it asynchronous development. The thinking is 5, the regulating is 2. And the tantrum is just those two numbers colliding. Your kid isn't melting down in spite of being sharp. They're melting down because the sharp part showed up before the rest of them could catch up. But underneath all of it, the questions, the energy, the sensitivity, the meltdowns, there's one deeper thing, and it's the piece that turns this from a coping video into a real one. In 2005, 2 researchers, Thomas Boyce and Bruce Ellis, published an idea that sorts children into 2 rough kinds. Most kids, they said, are dandelions. They grow fine just about anywhere, good home, hard home, they come out roughly okay, but some kids are orchids. Wildly responsive to the world around them. And here's the part that matters. An orchid in bad soil does worse than the dandelion ever would. But an orchid in good soil, warm, responsive, paying attention, doesn't just keep up. It outblooms every dandelion in the garden. Same trait. Both directions at once. The exact sensitivity that makes your toddler harder in a loud, rushed, overwhelming moment is the sensitivity that makes them soar in a warm and attentive one. It was never a defect with a silver lining. It's one high-gain antenna, and the only real variable is what it's pointed at. So no, I'm not going to tell you your difficult toddler is secretly a genius. The research doesn't say that, and I'm not going to hand you a fact nobody earned. What it says is quieter and honestly better. The intensity you've been apologizing for is the same raw material that, given the right soil, becomes depth. You are not raising a broken version of an easy kid. You're raising an orchid. And the soil is you. And I know how alone this gets. The 2 in the morning worry that everyone else got the simple one. The playground where you're the only one chasing, apologizing, explaining. The quiet fear that you must be doing it wrong, because how could it be this hard if you were doing it right? You're not doing it wrong. Hard was the reading. It was always the reading. Go back to the start. The kid you pictured. Calm, early, easy. Now look at the one who wore you out today. The questions that wouldn't quit. The feelings too big for the body trying to hold them. You were looking at it the whole time. You just had the wrong chart. If this is your kid, tell me in the comments. I think there are far more of you out there than anyone lets on.